webinar for business partners. This is a joint webinar including lighting and HVAC business partners. I will be your speaker for today. I am Ken Littell of ICF International, an independent contractor to NYSERDA. I am currently managing the commercial lighting and motor systems business partners programs for NYSERDA. Welcome to the presentation. Before we actually get into the presentation itself, I wanted to have a poll to determine how many of you are sharing this particular webinar together. We know that it makes sense for multiple people to be visiting one particular location, whether it's a conference room or somebody's office, to view the actual presentation together. So it'd be great if you can enter the information on the poll, click how many people are viewing the webinar in your office with you, 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5 or more. So we'll give it another few seconds here, let everybody get up to speed and click what they want to. 72% of you have voted. Anybody else want to put in their count, their quantity? Okay. Well, we'll go ahead and close the poll, and then we'll share this with everybody. There we go. So about 86% of you are viewing this webinar by yourself, and about 14% of you are actually viewing this with at least one other person. So I want to thank you for your input on that. It's helpful for how we design and put together webinars. So for that, now we'll get into the actual program. The presentation overview, what we're going to discuss today is small commercial program opportunities revolving around the Small Commercial Energy Efficiency Financing Program and the Small Commercial Energy Assessment. And the primary reason that we're actually promoting this to business partners today is because we want the business partners to understand how they can provide energy assessments and help customers access low-interest financing. So some of the opportunities for NYSERDA business partners is you're able to actually add a new element to your business model by adding these energy assessments. Many of you are already doing this kind of work for your business partners or for your customers. It allows you to assist your customers so that they can identify energy saving opportunities in addition to being able to get financing for those energy saving opportunities. This also expands your position with your customers by getting you to be a trusted advisor for your customers. It helps identify incentive and financing opportunities for your customers so they have ways to be able to buy down the first cost of the things that they would like to do. And it helps inform customers of NYSERDA's low interest rate financing for energy efficiency projects. And we'll get into the details as we go. So the small commercial energy financing. So I have another poll for you. I'd like to know if your customers are interested in receiving any kind of on-bill financing or reduced interest rates. And if you could please click yes, no, or I don't know. I'd greatly appreciate it. And yes, I do realize there's a typo in the question. Interest has an E in there that at the end it shouldn't be there. So it looks like 52% have voted, 57, 60%. So we're going to give it another 30 seconds here and get everybody to vote. Okay. Last call. All right, so we're going to close the poll. And it gives me a second here to share it with you. And I find this to be kind of interesting. Are your customers in need of on-bill financing or reduced interest rates? And 57% of you said yes. The other 43% said they didn't know. So I guess the thing that I would suggest to you is, as you're watching this presentation today, think about how this fits into your business model, how it can be an expanded part of your business model, and help you get more business and help you help your customers in a better way. And with that, we'll go back to the presentation. In the first section of this, we're going to talk about the energy efficiency financing. So NYSERDA actually works with lenders all across the state to offer small business and not-for-profit customers access to two different types of low-interest energy efficiency financing options. The first one is participation loan, which they actually can reach out to various different lenders across the state and get the participation loan. And then there's the on-bill recovery, which is something that's handled more through NYSERDA. You'll see that as we go through the process here. And so participation loans NYSERDA actually provides 50% of the loan principal up to $50,000 at 0% interest. And the lender actually will provide the rest of the loan at the market rate. And we'll give you a table in a second that shows you how that might break down, an example of how that breaks down. So if you choose a participation loan, then the eligible business partners or businesses and not-for-profits can actually have access to efficiency financing at basically half the market rate. So what does that actually look like? So you have cost share of 50%. NYSERDA would provide on a $30,000 loan, they would provide the $15,000 at 0% interest, and the lender would provide $15,000 at 4% interest. So effectively, the borrower receives a $30,000 loan at about 2% interest rate. I think that's a pretty good deal. So it's something that you want to be aware of when you're talking to your customers. Sometimes it makes sense to try and spread out the payments, give them more time to cover the capital for making any of these upgrades. So it's definitely an interesting available financing program for them. And so who can be eligible for this? Well, when we're talking about small businesses, a business that has 100 employees or less, owns their building, and manages or leases part of the building, or has the owners released to seek financing for the project. So you need to make sure that all the elements are in place as you go through the process. You want to make sure that if the owner is not the tenant or this business that you're dealing with, that you have the owner sign off on being able to implement these particular measures. And then one of the major things, one of the reasons why we're having this webinar today is something called the Qualified Energy Assessment. For a small business to be eligible for this type of a loan, they need to have a Qualified Energy Assessment. And then the actual business partner or the small business person has to actually meet the participating lender's underwriting criteria. That's above and beyond whatever NYSERDA requirements are for this program. Now, for not-for-profits, all of the criteria as far as eligibility is the same, except there is no top employee cap, so they can have as many employees as needed. And so how does a small business or not-for-profit repay the participation loan? You actually basically make regular loan payments. Once the loan is actually put in place and becomes active, you just make regular loan payments, and the lender takes care of paying back NYSERDA. So you don't have to worry about making two different payments. So the other option is going to on-bill recovery. And this is actually also through participating lenders that NYSERDA offers loans of up to $50,000 at 2.5% interest rate. Now, this interest rate may change, so you want to make sure you know what the interest rate is before you go into this. But eligible small businesses and not-for-profit customers can repay the loan on their monthly utility bill. Makes it a pretty convenient way to do this. So how do they actually repay the loan? The customer has 90 days after the energy efficiency project has been completed and receiving the loan proceeds. And once the project is completed, a loan installment charge is added to the utility bill. So this will come through on the monthly utility bill for your on-bill recovery. Now, there's some particular requirements beyond the specifics of eligibility. We'll talk about those in a second as far as how this all works together. But the on-bill recovery loan, it's similar to the way it's set up for eligibility for the participation loan, in that the small business has to have 100 employees less. They can either own the building or they can manage or lease part of the building, but they have to have the owner's permission to go ahead and make these changes. And once again, they must have a qualified energy assessment. The borrower is actually named on the utility account as one of the participating utilities. We'll talk about the participating utilities in a minute. And then it also needs to meet NYSERDA's underwriting criteria. Not-for-profit organizations have to meet the same kind of eligibility criteria as the small businesses, except again for the employee cap. There is no employee cap. So there's some other on-bill recovery requirements. It's expected that the annual energy cost savings must exceed the annual loan installment payments. So for example, if you're anticipating saving $10,000 for the year on energy, but you're only borrowing, you're trying to borrow $12,000, they would only allow up to the $10,000. That must exceed the amount of the energy savings for the year. On the other hand, if you're having energy savings of $10,000 and you need to borrow $8,000, that wouldn't be any problem at all. And NYSERDA is establishing a minimum loan term to ensure that the customer cash is positive. So the maximum loan term cannot exceed 10 years. So which utilities are participating? For those of you that have been active business partners in either the lighting or the HVAC program, you probably know most of the names on this list. There's Central Hudson, Con Edison, National Grid for upstate New York customers only, New York State Electric and Gas, Orange and Rockland Utilities, Rochester Gas and Electric. I skipped over the one that's new to many of you, is PSE&G in Long Island, PSE&G-LI. This is something that if you were working with the commercial lighting program or the HVAC program, normally projects that are in the PSEG-LI territory would not be eligible for incentives. However, under this program, under the energy assessment program, they would be eligible for financing. So that's one thing to bear in mind. You can kind of expand beyond your territory, or if you're working in that area already, then you can take advantage of this, help your customers take advantage of this particular program. So some other requirements to access the financing. Energy assessments are required. We've been talking about that, and we'll get into the specifics of what you need to do. And the small business must have a qualified energy assessment. And what the assessments will actually do is recommend energy efficiency improvements so that the customer can actually make a good decision about how to improve in their business, how to lower their energy bills, and to be more energy efficient. Some other requirements for accessing the financing is the measures must actually be included on the energy assessment. They can include things like lighting, furnaces, boilers, etc. I won't read the entire list. But the whole point is that if this information, if lighting is not included on the qualified energy assessment, then the business customer cannot go out, the small business cannot go out and actually submit for financing for lighting. It has to be on the energy assessment. A couple other requirements. Any available incentives will be used to reduce the finance amount. So that would actually be turned over as part of the program. And then the projects must have a simple payback of 15 years or less to be eligible for financing. So, small commercial energy assessment. I'd like to go back to the polls for a moment and ask all of you on the phone, as business partners, does your company provide your customers with energy assessments? I know many of you actually do some kind of an audit. You need to do that to be able to get an idea of what you need to do to replace the existing equipment, but do you actually provide energy assessments for your customers? So at this point, we're about 55% of the people, 60%. We'll let the poll go for a couple of more seconds here. So again, if you just chiming in, does your company provide your customers with energy assessments, and click yes, no, or I don't know. Okay, looks like we're at about 80% voted, and it hasn't rolled over in a little while. So now we're going to share the poll with everybody. I like this result a little bit better. As far as whether or not you provide your customers energy assessments, 81% of you said yes, they do. And 16% said no. So this is an item that you might want to consider adding to your business model. If you don't know, again, you might want to take this back. If you're the boss, think about adding it. If you are taking this webinar on behalf of your company, you might want to bring it back to your employer and say, hey, this is something we should think about adding. So we'll go back to the presentation here and talk to you about the specifics of small commercial energy assessment. So there's a couple of methods for the small commercial energy assessment. And the first one is actually a free method. So you as business partners really wouldn't take part in this part of it. NYSERDA actually offers free energy assessments to small businesses, not-for-profits, with 10 employees or less. That's 10 full-time equivalent employees or less, and an average annual electric demand of 100 kW or less. So these are free assessments. They're things that NYSERDA has already set up various different organizations across the state to cover these different territories. So this is not something that you would normally do as a business partner in this program. So who provides the energy assessments? There's 4 regional firms across the state that NYSERDA has contracted with through December 31st, 2016. And the breakdown is Western and Central New York is one organization, Central New York, North Country, Capital Region, Mid-Hudson Valley, that's another organization, Lower Hudson Valley and the Bronx, and New York City and Long Island. Those are the way it breaks down. So if you're dealing with people in those areas and they're in these smaller categories, they have 10 employees or less, they're under 100 kW, then you could actually refer them back to this particular free assessment program rather than going ahead and doing it yourself. So if you're looking for additional information on this and your customers wish to access the free assessments, they can go ahead and click on this link. When we send you out the PDF file, the link will be live, and you'll be able to send this link to your customers so that they can actually go ahead and get this information and get a free assessment. So I told you about the free assessments. How do you get involved as a business partner? Well, we talked about who's eligible for these various different loans. If you have 10 employees or less, then you're eligible for the free assessments. But companies with up to 100 employees can actually have or may be eligible for getting the various different financing options. So how do they do that? They need a qualifying energy assessment that meets NYSERDA's standards. Again, you'll notice here on the bullets that the standards is underlined. Again, those links will be live, so you can go right to what the NYSERDA standards are. We'll talk about some of those standards in a moment. But the main thing I want you to know is that there is a gap between the 10 employees or less that can get free assessments and the 100 employees or less who are also potentially eligible for financing but are not necessarily eligible for free financing. So we want to make sure that you know that you're aware of that and you're intending to go ahead and do this and conduct energy assessments for your customers. What are some of the energy assessment requirements? You need to capture things like the baseline information, which would include items like the building description, the energy and fuel consumption. Now, that said, if you're doing just a lighting project, you wouldn't necessarily need to know about the fuel consumption like gas or oil. But if you're doing an HVAC project, then you would probably need to know if it's involved with gas or electricity or both. So you need to make sure you capture all that data. You need to know what the building systems are. And again, the standards breaks down what the specifics of the items that they're looking for in this energy assessment would be. The scope of the work is the information that you're providing as far as the potential measures that have been evaluated and actually can be implemented moving forward. So what's the cost information for these proposed measures? Basically, you need to put together a proposal or a quotation as part of this qualifying energy assessment. And you have to explore the energy and cost savings methodology. There's actually a couple of recommended measure summary tables that you could use Some of you might be familiar with the existing facilities lighting form. That's something that you might be able to use or modify to work with. Again, if you want to go into more details, you can look at NYSERDA's standards for this particular program. We will be releasing a checklist soon, which will actually help you sit down at your desk as you're filling out the report and follow down the checklist and make sure you have everything you need to go ahead and complete the qualified energy assessment. So how do you apply for participation, or your customers apply for participation or on-bill loans? First, you need to complete the request for the financing package. There's a request for financing form, and then there's also approved energy efficiency measures worksheet. Again, these links will be live when you receive the PDF version of this PowerPoint, and so you'll be able to click on these links and go directly to the forms. And then you want a copy of the incentive application, so if they're already putting together an existing facilities program application, then you want to go ahead and submit that as part of the process. The end user is going to need to have contractor quotes, but if you remember what we were talking about, the energy assessment, qualified energy assessment requires a proposal for what the implementation will be, and so that would include quotes for getting the work done. And then you need a copy of the energy assessment that meets the NYSERDA standards. So you have to submit the complete financing package to NYSERDA via email. This is the Green Jobs Green New York web or email address, where you can actually send the packages directly to Catherine Fantozzi at NYSERDA at 17 Columbia Circle. And you can actually probably assist your customers. Not every customer is going to be savvy enough that they're going to be comfortable actually submitting all these packages, so you can help support that after you've done the qualifying energy assessment. So for more information, you can actually click on the small commercial energy financing links, the NYSERDA energy assessment standards. This is a key piece which actually tells you what the various different standards are involved in the project, in the qualifying energy assessment. And you can go ahead and look at what those are to be able to submit them correctly. NYSERDA, there's a free small commercial energy assessment that we talked about for those companies and not-for-profits that have less than 10 employees. And then the existing facilities program webpage for incentives. This wouldn't affect the new construction program because what you're talking about is taking out old equipment or existing equipment and replacing it with new equipment. And so this is why we're talking about the energy efficiency existing facilities program. So for additional information, there's some other locations you can actually go to. Again, these links will be live when we send you the PowerPoint. First, you can actually go to the Small Commercial Energy Assessment page. Here's the link here. If you're a commercial lighting business partner, you can contact the lighting partners at nyserda.ny.gov, and we will receive that email here at ICF and be able to respond to your questions, or you can call the toll-free number. If you're an HVAC business partner, again, you can contact through email the HVAC partners at nyserda.ny.gov, or contact the toll-free number, and you will get in touch with the DNVGL staff that can actually help you out with these various different programs. And with that, that's the completion of the presentation, and it was going to open it up for questions. I don't see any questions in the timeline at this point in the question box. And I'm looking to see if any attendees have any questions. Okay. So we do have some questions on the phone here. So somebody's asked what qualifies as energy assessment. Would a flex tech study be involved? Yes, somebody can use a flex tech study as long as it's got the elements that are included in the standards for the qualifying energy assessment. So that's something that could be done if you're a flex tech contractor and you're already supplying these. There was a question about small businesses. What's defined as small businesses? As we described earlier, to be eligible for these financing programs, they have to be small businesses with 100 employees or less. How long does it take for the applications to be completed? If you're talking about the actual financing applications, there's probably a somewhat different timeline on whether you're doing the on-bill recovery or the participation loan. The on-bill recovery goes to NYSERDA and it's handled one way, and then the participation loan is handled through the vendor. Some of the numbers that I've been hearing out there are like somewhere around 6 to 8 weeks, but you would need to check with your vendor or with NYSERDA when you actually submit the application as to the timeline at that time. We have had a question from somebody to get an idea on these surveys as to what kind of sampling we're talking about. About 46 individuals actually signed into the webinar today. So when we talk about 81% of 46, we're talking around 30-some people in that range have said yes to that one particular question. So, and I think that's it with the questions. If I've missed one of your questions, feel free to reach out to us at the Lighting Partners email address. We will go ahead and send this presentation out to everyone who attended today. And if you have any additional questions beyond that, get a hold of either, if you're a lighting business partner, get a hold of the lighting team, or if you're an HVAC business partner, get a hold of the HVAC team, and we will go ahead and assist you with any questions that you have, or direct you to the people that can answer the questions. And with that, I thank you all for your time today, and we look forward to helping you in the future. Have a good day.